I had a very deep discussion with spirit today, and energy is all around us, and that's not just a saying. That is an absolute truth. But before I have a bunch of exercises I want to do, but before I do that, I wanted to say this because it's very important that people really think about this. Like, the sayings that we have, like we are all one and we're together, and God is in everything, and the Creator is the greatest, the source, all this kind of stuff that we say. There's truth in every word because, we have to be quite intelligent to make a sound out of wind and inner effort from a inside our body. Like we're in our body right now, okay? And we're going, hey, blah, 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 making noise that other people can listen to and intelligently comprehend. Other animals, they make noises and sounds and gestures and stuff like that. And it's all cool too. So I'm not saying anything bad about those, but here's like what I'm trying to get at, because people are just so much deeper than they allow themselves to think about themselves. But with everything that you see, those sayings, the reason I pointed out those sayings, especially the we are all one, like if you want to really think about what our ancestors are and what we are, okay? Aside from the way you look, and aside from the family you're in, the community you're around, the state, country, citizenship, and the friends and, girlfriends and few individual, you know, I would say limitations, but I would say your individual, you know, details. They're not really limitations, but it's just what, like, say, if you only treat your family like family, that's a limitation. But at the same time, it's your detail and it's your blessing. So, I mean, you can look at anything any way. You can look at anything positive in a negative way and look at anything negative in a positive way. It's a lesson that you learn from. If it's a bad thing or if it's a good thing, it's a delight to encounter, those kind of things. But if people want to really, truly, truly, not like this isn't just a theory, if you want to know where, like, our ancestors are, okay, spiritually, let's look at the elements that our bodies are made of. And look at a bird, for instance, because I'll use a simple thing like a bird. Okay, when a bird dies, either it's eaten into a body that, we'll just say when the bird dies, it dies on the ground. Unlike, like we'll say most people don't get eaten by anything. So we'll have to use a person for this example. When a person dies, they're usually put into the ground or cremated. And in those ways, elements are put back to the way they start. Okay, so they're either back into the ground or by fire, they are ash, which is releasing all the water and air out of them. So when you drop a drop of water back into the big pool of water, it becomes back to a part of the pool of water, which the big pool of water is endless. We're talking about spirit here. So the big pool of spirit is endless. So those elements that our bodies decompose, they dehydrate, they evaporate, they do all those things. And the next life is born inside this same biosphere that we live on called Earth. And it's born, okay? Nothing outside this biosphere came in or out. Well, to get deeper, we'd have to get really deep and say that there's no Earth and no space and no anything like that. Truly, there isn't. But at the same time, there is because we've created it. Not us as people, but our mind. The mind that we actually operate and are part of. It's mind. It's all mind. But anyway, our ancestors, when they die, and back then most of them did either die and decompose, unfortunately, because not all of them had proper burials, or they were buried and they decomposed in the ground. Okay, plants grow, animals eat them. Maybe other plants grow, we eat them. This happens, that happens. Those energies that were physical get manipulated and turned into different things in different animals. And those energies that are spiritual and invisible are manipulated and changed. And they go in and out of lifetimes so much. Like you're made of energy that continuously grows. Like as you breathe in and breathe out, as you eat food and give waste, like you're continuously changing. You are never, ever, ever the same thing. Ever. Like when the rain falls into a puddle and then the water absorbs into the ground, and then more rain falls into the puddle, keeping the puddle looking the same level. It's not the same water. Just like as you go through your life, you're not the same anything. You're not the same air, you're not the same water, you're not the same soil. It all keeps changing, but you keep looking the same because your body knows how to change it into what you know it as. So, where does your body stop? It doesn't. Your body's everything around you, but just some of it doesn't get merged with you because you choose not to merge with it, which makes complete sense. And yes, but your physical human body has limitations. Your arms, legs, head, butt. But your spiritual, your true, your true spiritual body really has no limitation at all. You really are everything there is. You have your physical body, yes, to experience it from. But you've been your ancestors, our ancestors are the same, whether they look black, white, Chinese, Mexican, anything. Those are just words that we say to separate each other. I don't care who looks different than me. They're family members to me. Deep in my heart, I know that for sure. Like right out in the open, I know that for sure. Like nobody has to convince me of that because I've experienced my own past life. Like I've experienced the one, all things that have ever been. Deep sea, blue sky, space, time continuums, everything that you could possibly imagine. But I just don't have the words for it because I'm not a sci-fi thumper or a spiritual guru or anything like that. But I've seen every potential and every whatever in a non-time way where billions and billions of lifetimes, it seemed like nothing. So at first, like I said, I had a really hard time being normal in my everyday life. But I slowly found a way back to being the person I was by every day I remind myself of Dan Alexander and who he is and the family that I take personally serious. And then secondary, I think of all the people and how I want to treat everybody. And then I remind myself that I'm not just that though. Number three is the biggest one. I'm not just that. So don't fall back into that for good. And when I don't remind myself good enough of number three, that's when life gets really hard. Because most people are stuck in number three. They aren't even number one. And they're not number two. It's not number one like the greatest. It's not number two, the shit. It's number three, stuckness. But number three is the greatest too, because if you remind yourself that we're not just that, you're good. You're totally good. And our ancestors, I go back to that to finish because I wanted to talk about ancestors. Our ancestors are us. Like literally. And our descendants to come are us. And I don't mean us as in just like me and whoever I would mate with or someone, whoever they would mate with. I mean literally the flow of energy is just moving around. When we say the flow, that's what the flow is. The flow is everything. The air, the water, the heat, the ground, and the space that just as you move through it, it moves through you. You gather things from the air, they land on your body. Some of them get in, some of them don't. Things come out. You drop cells. You are continuously deteriorating and regrowing. And it's the most beautiful thing. And people, if they would see that, they wouldn't think so much about the details of what kind of handbags and what kind of cool clothes they have on, or they wouldn't even think about the cars and the jobs and anything like that. They would think about the existence and that we are lucky enough just to be alive. And if they could simplify their mind and then their life, because right now your life is what it is and you got to simplify you first. And the best thing to do is to do it in your individual mind. And that's what I'm here for. Not to save the world in that kind of fashion where you're like, I'm stopping an asteroid from blasting into the earth. Those are things that in this lifetime somebody has used their incredible mind to imagine. And it doesn't ever have to happen. But if people never believe that, then it can happen. So the craziest stuff is possible with the mind, and it's we've gotten so far into it. We're so far into it, billions and gagillions and gabillions of years into it. But right now is the time for us to solve the big math problem, answer the big riddle. Where's the source? We're the source. Replaying it over and over in billions and jillions of shapes and forms. And that's what we're doing over and over and over and over. The birds, everything, the fish, the grass, the air molecules, they're all us and our ancestors and our descendants. And when people truly understand that, the peace will happen inside and the peace will just all of a sudden appear magically outside. And it'll seem like, how the hell did that happen? And it will happen. I see it. I know it. I've been there. I've already been to the future. So that's what the part, it's not just I've had billions of existences in the past. I know how planets and stars, and I call them planets with not Planet, Planettete, like the feminine version. Like some of them didn't grow into things that had what we call life forms that walked and talked, or that, like, were predators and prey, more or less. They didn't even really get started. Those mountains, or whatever kind of things we would call them, the structures, some of them didn't have mountains. Some of them had, like, not really glass, but like crystal gas worlds that didn't quite make it because the molecules didn't mix right, and it didn't make it. It just burns into a giant biosphere of gas. And because it's in its bubble, like Earth, it's in its compact form, so it looks like a star. And some of them fizzle out, some of them don't. Just like when you take a lighter and you light it and you move it in an area, the fire is right there, but as you move it, the fire's not there no more. It's wherever you're moving it. So, and when you take your finger off it, boop, it's gone. And what keeps everything going is, whether we think it's belief or not. What do you believe? Well, it doesn't matter what you believe, because what you really believe is happening. Because you don't have to tell it to happen. It's happening. Whether you believe it or not, it's right there in front of you. So, I don't know. I don't want to go too far into it, but about ancestors and descendants, we're all that. Literally. Do you think you're all that? Well, you are. So am I, but not in that kind of way. I'm not like, hey, hey, I'm all that, snap, snap, snap. Nothing like that. We're all that because we are. We always have been. We just forgot. And I'm here to remind you that you are freaking awesome. And I love you. Have a great day every day.